Welcome to Living Abroad. I know, guys, we usually do stories about people who are living abroad, but we could not do a story to celebrate the youth of 1976, June 16 in South Africa. That's why we have you today, Budi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know wanting to have this talk. I mean, I've been harassing you to have a talk with you for ages now, and I'm so happy like it happened now. So if you can like maybe formally introduce yourself, what you do and all of that, and how you were like involved in the Feesmustfall movement.
Once more, thank you for having us. It's great pleasure to have this platform and speak to you. It's my official name or ID name. It's Amla Monageng, who is popularly known as Amla. Others they call me Put Amla. Others they call me Chairman Amla. Yeah, this is simply because obviously the chairman is from me leading the branch of the Economic Freedom Fighter Students Command at the University of Pretoria. I think the term of office was 2016 to 2017. And then, but yeah, I'm the former student leader at the University of Pretoria, as I highlighted. When the Students Command was incepted, I was there in the funding assembly. I have participated in student movement up until I left the University of Pretoria unceremoniously so, due to expulsion, which was informed by our activism, particularly in leading the various struggles in the University of Pretoria. You'd recall or you'd know that the University of Pretoria is historically known as the Afrikaner institution. And obviously one is bound to participate in the student movement due to their conscious level, unless one is, highly ignorant. I've participated in the struggles such as ending outsourcing, which I would say that we've won it 99%. I would not say 100%. You should always leave just the percent for, the shenanigans of the white monopoly capital to replace the gains of the masses of our people. We've led the struggle such as Africans Must Form, which at the center of it was inspired by the decolonialization of the institution of higher learning. We've led the Feesmustfall as well, which is intertwined with the previous struggle that I've just mentioned. But ultimately, the call to transform institutions of higher learning in the country and ultimately Africa and abroad. Currently, I'm with the University of South Africa as a student development practitioner. Yes.
Yes, would. And I mean, now it's, June 16, we are again going to be talking about the issues of Africans, and how today, after 46 years, the youth of South Africa is still fighting the same struggle of 1976. And you guys have lived that, have experienced that. So if you can just explain to people who are probably maybe from Scotland and they are watching the podcast, what was happening in the classrooms regarding this issue?
Perhaps I should, it was a blind spot on my side to acknowledge that we're having this conversation at the crucial moment where it inspired many struggles, that followed after 1976 June uprising. And we pay salutations to that brave generation that inspired us and inspired the generation just after them, till to date, it still inspires many generations.
Yes.
One thing that we point out, it is to say that the June 1976 uprising was a spark of a revolution in South Africa, which ultimately saw the apartheid regime being on its knees because of it's a struggle that became a game changer in the politics of the then. One would acknowledge that, yes, the media might be reporting this matter as a language dispute by the students or the learners who then were in high school, to say that it cannot be correct that in our land we can be taught with a foreign language that it's forced down our throats, whereas we have indigenous languages that are not being developed, that are ignored, and we should take the colonizers, languages and, go forge ahead with them. But at the center of everything, if we were to reflect honestly, it was a form of mobilization to say that at the center of everything, we have problems, not only in the schools, but in the broader society of South Africa. Our land has been dispossessed. Our economy is being dominated by the settlers, Now, what we then do as the learners, they organize themselves to say that let us fight. Obviously, at the central point, there should be a point that converge all the learners to rally behind the struggle. And that point happened to be the language issue, to say that it cannot be correct that we allow this to be order of the day, whereas we have indigenous language who are unfairly discriminated, our languages are being relegated. And it is unfortunate that even today, the struggle is still ongoing. I mean, after many years, they fought this revolution. We found ourselves when we entered the terrain of the University of Pretoria. And not only in the University of Pretoria. I mean, if you recall that the University of Free State, when we started this, they immediately followed to say that we're going through the same thing. Recently, the Stellenbosch, they're in the process to review their language policy, but many institutions have been following, including University of South Africa. They are in a process to integrate the indigenous language into the mainstream, or rather into the system, to say that let us develop the indigenous language so that when we speak of the transformation of the institution, we could speak about things that are tangible. We do not understand why should we continue to use Afrikaans at the expense of the indigenous language. And our argument was on a basis that University of Pretoria is an historically Afrikaner institution. It used to exclude the African people in favor of the Afrikaners. Now, we had cases where the Afrikaners would get the scope in their own mother tongue. But secondly, in the scope, it would be a leading scope, whereas we as the African people were subjected to English, and the scope will be broad. And we said to keep this and to protect the integrity of the institution, but the academic project as an overall, let us use English. Let us all struggle, because of it is not our choice that we found ourselves, the institutions having developed and moved to a point where that they're using English, So that's why we entered the conversation. And we were met with a serious resistance where the Afrikaners, fought back, felt that we are attacking their language. And one thing that we need to highlight, we did not attack a spoken, because there's a difference between, Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in the institution of higher learning and a spoken Afrikaans you know, as a language of a particular group. We were not attacking a language of the people or the culture of the people. What we were attacking was the Africans, people being favored or being put at advantageous point as opposed to us because it was discriminatory. So,
because you are sitting there like in the classroom and they are being taught in Afrikaans and you have to translate yourself all the time.
Exactly. You know, we've made an example to say that you translate what the teacher says or the lecturer says. After translation, you need to comprehend. You still need to think. After thinking, you align your thoughts, like your answers. You need to translate them again, back. It's a lengthy process that happens with, you know, particular space of a time. Whereas an Afrikaner student, everything is a straightforward. You know, the conversation between him and the teacher or the lecturer is just a straightforward, you know, which is a problematic thing.
And they go home and then they still use this language. And you go home and you speak your Tswana, your Xhosa, your Zulu.
Exactly. So that is where we had a problem. But on the other aspect was to say that we as the African students, we are paying for the usage of Afrikaans. And at the center of everything, we are the disadvantaged group because of one reason. Our parents, it is an historical fact that it is only selected Africans who were allowed to do certain, you know, degrees or field of, to get into a certain field of studies. And not on a sizable number of us are affording, you know, to pay for this education or to buy this education. The study was conducted in UKZN, but also in, I think it was also in UCT, where students were given opportunity to write in their mother tongue and they excelled. You know, now you come across the quasi thinkers who come and defend the nonsensical things to say that no, but it is going to be expensive, but also the languages are not developed, all those things, as if like we, the Africans, we are not civilized people, we know nothing of thinking, we are not people who think, you know. I mean, where do we locate these things? It boils back to the fact that at the center of this developmental of the institutions of higher learning, they've disregarded Africans as the beings, you know. We are non-beings to them. We're just, you know, things, you know, that could be told what to do, you know, when, where to go, all those type of things.
But then you look at like 1994, right? The ANC comes into power and it's Black people now that are in power in South Africa. So why are we still begging for white people to change? Why would they change? What is in for them to change?
You know, it's quite sad. It's quite sad. When we reflect on the ANC and the current government, we should, at the center of everything, concede that the ANC is not the ruling class, but it's a governing body. You know, there's a ruling class and there's an administrative body of the ruling class. Now, would come to terms with the fact that those who are calling or who are making the policies and calling the shots are the ruling class. Who is the ruling class? Remains the white elites, you know? So the ANC, it's a body that is used by the ruling class. Now we reflect back to then what happened in 1994 till to date. Can we then say that indeed the Black people have earned the power? Indeed, the Black people took center stage, you know, to redefine everything in the country, the self-determination, you know. Of course, we can't say that. And this is an historical point. I mean, just before 1994, the PAC together with Azapo, which then was the Black Consciousness Movement of Azania, with the ANC, comes together to say that the apartheid regime is on its knees. They are about to negotiate. They've been calling for negotiations. Let us have a consolidated view and approach of entering these negotiations. And the resolutions of that meeting was that the negotiations should be at the central point. 1. 2, it must be out of South Africa. 3, it must be the question of the land question should be non-negotiable. The land question, they should have considered on it to say that before we negotiate, you are going to return the land to its rightful owners. Now the ANC goes and negotiates individually, separately. And the other two organizations found themselves having been coerced to come to party to negotiate, So that's when you then realize to say that the question of sunset clause, it's still the issue that haunts us today. You cannot negotiate while you are having an upper hand and still give the people that you are negotiating with everything. I mean, you'd recall.
But why do you think they did that? Do you think it was just a matter of being tired of being in prison or of just wanting to get things over and done with?
Look, we will remain speculative, but let us attempt to answer your question through our ideological lenses. Now, we're found in a situation where the leaders would explain to say that in as much as the apartheid regime was on its knees, but the violence was not an option because of we were bleeding, losing many civilians, losing many leaders. That on its own was not sustainable. And this is an argument that is presented, by those who were at the helm of leadership, So the negotiations was a viable option then to say that let us circumvent the violence, let us stop the bloodshed, let us negotiate, and we will deal with these other things as time goes by.
Yeah.
Now, the question is that you then question the commitment of the leadership of the ANC. And the historical events of the ANC teaches us that the ANC has never committed itself on a land question. You go back to ANC history from its inception, maybe up until just before 1943. They were clear that they are fighting for integration into the system. They wanted to be part of this parliament system. They wanted to be part of ownership of land. I mean, there's one letter which ANC wrote to the Queen begging to say that at least give us a small portion of the land. Now it tells you that these people, they did not have a commitment of overhauling this apartheid regime on its entirety. President Mbeki assists us to understand that the ANC, it has been clear that it's fighting for integration.
South Africa belongs to everyone who lives in it.
Who lives in it, So that is an important trajectory in the country to say that, no, hold on, perhaps we are victimizing ANC with something that it's not, and it has never said it is.
But why do you think people are confused? Why do you think people are confused? Why do you think people are still voting the ANC with the hope that they're going to get the land, they're going to be part of the economical growth of South Africa?
The sentimental attachment, we might undermine it, but it's a thing that lives in our mind. You find young people, that are still campaigning for the ANC. Elders, the reality of the matter is that the apartheid regime condemned our people. Condemned our people in a sense of saying that they can't imagine themselves anywhere to say that what the ANC has done for us, it's the best thing because of we are from, Egepeta, we are from Egypt, where we used to suffer, we used to be ruled with an iron fist, we used to be killed at any time where people were feeling they can kill us, were easily disposable. Now we are living in the so-called democratic society. And those who are Marxists will agree with us to say that the democratic society also it's an apparatus of a capitalist society. While we are saying that, who controls all these things? It boils back to say that who is the ruling class in South Africa today? It remains white elites. They are calling shots. The legislative framework is under their control. The economy is under their control. The land ownership is under their control. The institutions of higher learning is under their control. The language usage is under their control. Now, what is it that we're left with? But also, Ngungi wa Thiong'o teaches us that the language plays a critical role in a developmental society, but also in our being. And he further argues to say that the reason why the colonists have captured the institutions of higher learning, it is to control our thinking. Now, how do they control our thinking? The knowledge production, it is dispatched in their language. First thing. Secondly, the knowledge that they dispatch, it is them who controls that knowledge, what we must know, what we must not know. If you want to see the resistance and the anger of our people, be able to communicate, teach them their history in their mother tongue, communicate with them in their mother tongue. I can tell you the ANC will be a history. There has to be a violent revolution. Julius has demonstrated that he is a committed, a revolutionary who is prepared to get the liberation of our people through any means necessary. And at the center of the EFF prides itself to say that we are a Marxist-Leninist Fanonian organization. And we abide by the dictatorship of the proletariat. But second to that, it is to say that we center the discussions, we debate, but in the action, everything is centralized, which is the concept is called democratic centralism. Now, you cannot define Julius outside the structures of the economic freedom fighters. The reason why we're saying that Julius will never be captured. And look, any human being is capable of being captured, but we have full confidence in Julius because of, from the inception of the EFF, he has demonstrated the most revolutionary zeal in fighting the current white monopoly capital. To say that, hold on, for many years, we've allowed you to rule, but you failed, and you check the policies that are advanced by the EFF are not the policies of the Julius, but are the policies of the masses of our people, because of those policies are the products of the people. Those policies are the products of consultations, So we believe that should the EFF be the government of the day, we will be able to topple and do away with the neoliberal framework that is advanced by the ANC and it's been perpetuated by the ruling class. And when you are saying that, it is simply because of the EFF has been agitating on the ground, but also has been playing a crucial role of conscientizing our people. Tell me where the ANC has ever done that, other than just limiting it within its structures. Majority of young people were disinterested in the politics. Majority of our people in general, they were not interested in politics. The inception of the EFF introduced the consciousness into our people. Today, if you speak to any person on the street, we'll be able to break it down to you to say that this is what is happening. The reason why this racist still shines and feel untouchable, it is because of the ANC has deliberately refused to criminalize racism. So we need to continue to raise consciousness, and the EFF is on the right platform to do so. We believe the EFF is the only vehicle that will deliver us from the evil claws of the ANC and the white monopoly capital.
But you probably need finances, to rule the country. Let's say people do vote for him and he's in power. Don't you think maybe the white masses will probably punish him financially?
That has long been discussed within the EFF. The strategy, and this is what this ruling elite have done with the ANC, was to, when the apartheid was on the verge of collapse, they privatized everything and ensured that the most people who have the capital are these white, people. And the essence of doing that was so that when the ANC start tapping into what they disagree with, they freeze funding so that the state can, tremble into crisis and collapse ultimately. Now, the ANC, what it means, it's a fundamental principle of an ideology. The first thing that we need to do as the economic freedom fighters, it is to ensure that we develop the developmental forces within the country. And how do we do so? We have a huge land that we can use for farming, but also we have livestock. But in generating the funds, we've always argued that let us industrialize. But in industrialization, we should ensure that the state owns its land, the state owns majority of the industries, so that you can employ our people first. Secondly, so you can ensure that each and every activity that is taking place is beneficial to the people. Now, even if you can punish us, as long as we can cap unemployment, as long as we can feed our people, as long as we are having measures in place to ensure that we can run the state, then so be it. We can give an example with Zimbabwe.
I was going to go into that. Like, how did he get it so wrong, Mugabe?
Yes, for over a period of time, people said the economy of Zimbabwe is shrinking, it's collapsing, all those things. The economy of Zimbabwe was developing up until the greed tapped into the mind of those who are in the helm of leadership. Yeah. People of Zimbabwe owned their own land. And at the center of the EFF EFF prides itself to say that we are a Marxist-Leninist Fallonian organization, and we abide by the dictatorship of the proletariat. But second to that, it is to say that we center the discussions, we debate, but in the action, everything is centralized, which is the concept is called democratic centralism. Now, you cannot define Julius outside the structures of the economic freedom fighters. The reason why we're saying that Julius will never be captured. And look, any human being is capable of being captured, but we have full confidence in Julius because from the inception of the EFF, he has demonstrated the most revolutionary zeal in fighting the current white monopoly capital. To say that, hold on, for many years, we've allowed you to rule, but you failed, and you check the policies that are advanced by the EFF are not the policies of the Julius, but are the policies of the masses of our people, because of those policies are the products of the people. Those policies are the product of consultations, So we believe that should the EFF be the government of the day, we will be able to topple and do away with the neoliberal framework that is advanced by the ANC and it's been perpetuated by the ruling class. And why we are saying that, it is simply because of the EFF has been agitating on the ground, but also has been playing a crucial role of conscientizing our people. Tell me where the ANC has ever done that, other than just limiting it within its structures. Majority of young people were disinterested in the politics. Majority of our people in general, they were not interested in politics. The inception of the EFF introduced the consciousness into our people. Today, if you speak to any person on the street, we'll be able to break it down to you to say that this is what is happening. To say that the reason why we are in crisis is because of the ANC. The failure for ANC to expropriate land without compensation is the reason why we have high unemployment rate. The failure for ANC to refuse to industrialize is the reason why the youth of today, after graduating, they don't find job opportunities. The reason why this racist still shines and feel untouchable, it is because of the ANC has deliberately refused to criminalize racism. We believe the EFF is the only vehicle that will deliver us from the evil claws of the ANC and the white monopoly capital.
Let's say people do vote for him and he's in power. Don't you think maybe the white masses will probably punish him financially, sanctions, this and that?
That has long been discussed within the EFF. The strategy, and this is what this ruling elite have done with the ANC, was to, when the apartheid was on the verge of collapse, they've privatized everything and ensured that the most people who have the capital are these white, people. And the essence of doing that was so that when the ANC start tapping into what they disagree with, they freeze funding so that the state can, tremble into crisis and collapse ultimately. First and foremost, the primary thing that people need is to be fed.
Yeah.
If we feed our people will be able to tolerate whatever hardship that they will encounter in the process of detaching yourself with the capitalists. Now, how do you do that? we have a huge land that we can use for farming, but also we have livestock. But in generating the funds, we've always argued that let us industrialize. But in industrialization, we should ensure that the state owns its land, the state owns majority of the industries, so that you can employ our people first. Secondly, so you can ensure that each and every activity that is taking place is beneficial to the people. Now, even if you can punish us, as long as we can keep unemployment, as long as we can feed our people, as long as we are having measures in place to ensure that we can run the state, then so be it. We can give an example with Zimbabwe.
I was going to go into that. Like, how did he get it so wrong, Mugabe?
Yes, for over a period of time, people said the economy of Zimbabwe is shrinking, it's collapsing, all those things. The economy of Zimbabwe was developing up until the greed tapped into the mind of those who are in the helm of leadership.
Yeah.
People of Zimbabwe owned their own land. People of Zimbabwe produced their own food. For over decades, for over many years, people of Zimbabwe, in as much as there were sanctions, the economic embargoes, but people of Zimbabwe were feeding themselves. It goes back to say that the media is an organ of a class rule. It reports in the interest of the elites. Hence, today, at the verge of commemorating the brave generation, the president of the country who's found wanting, who's found in serious corruptions, he's been protected by the media. That is why earlier on I said the revolutionary forces of the country and in the continent need to develop its own propaganda tools so that they can counter these white monopoly capital organs. Up until we do so, we will continue to be enslaved to these ANC or liberal organizations. Today, we are told that the DA is a better option to the ANC. Today, we are told the liberal organization can do better job. We ask the fundamental question to what happened to our consciousness? If a person can utter that to say an apartheid regime was better than the ANC, or the possible product of the apartheid regime, not a possible product. In fact, the product of the apartheid regime can be possible alternative to our people. What are we saying? Where is our consciousness?
And when you ask that question, where is our consciousness and the youth of South Africa? Like, why do you think the youth, I was reading like the other day, it's over 3 trillion rands that has been stolen, like in corruptions between 1994 and today. That's just an estimate, right? So looking at the youth of 1976, like how the bravery, and I was listening to John Khan on the podcast and chill. I don't know if you've seen that interview with McG. It was a pleasure to be arrested for fighting. Everyone wanted to be part of the struggle. And I was born in 86. I've never been physically been in one of the boycotts, but I've watched my uncles, my mom, the way they'll be so excited, writing the boards, and they will come back beaten. But after a few months, they'll still go. Why do you think the youth of South Africa is lacking? You'll see people like Unhlanhla Lux ones, like you guys, but why do you think the youth is taking it for granted, or they're just not really doing anything about the corruption? Instead, on Twitter, people making jokes about the stadium, the 15 million stadium, the flag, but they're not really getting up and actually fighting this serious issue of corruption?
There's a
What happened
twofold
was,
response. There's a twofold response.
mm,
First and foremost, the immediate project of the ANC through its handlers was to depoliticize, our people and ultimately the youth, because of you need non-thinking beings that you can tell them, go there, they go without a question. Go there, they go without a question. It is unfortunate. What perpetuates that? It is the current education framework.
So South African youth is being deliberately programmed.
Indeed. You have our African brothers coming, say that, okay, guys, who are seeking refugee because of back home, there's violence, there's poverty, there's all these crises. Now, the very same capital comes and arms our youth with the most backward ideologies to say that you must fight your African brothers. Nhlanhla Laxtas is not an innocent individual. He does not emerge today to speak about this immigration. Nhlanhla Lax is a product of white monopoly capital. He is the very same person who went out to defend the malls, who went out to defend a white capital establishment at the expense of the people. We were furnished with an opportunity to say that let us collapse this economy and rebuild. Because of the ANC was plunged into a serious crisis. Nhlanhla Lax led the defense of the white establishment. Now Nhlanhla Lax comes and attack the motive force of the revolution. And we must go and discuss with Nhlanhla Lax. I mean, it is clear that Nhlanhla Lax is a product of the establishment. Establishment seeks to create another Mandela. If we entertain Nhlanhla Lax, we will be giving him undeserved attention and we will be making a monster in him. The Dudula movement is slowly dying out. We said, let's give them time. We must not entertain them. The leadership must not even speak about them. Where is it today? It is nowhere. It's slowly dying out. People, they can speak to say that, hey, EFF is prioritizing the foreign nationals. The real foreigners are running our economy. The real foreigners are owning our land. What are we saying? All of those individuals who are aligned with the Dudula movement, if you go back and do a thorough investigation and research on their political views, they have never criticized the white establishment. Why must we waste time with those people who don't know who is the primary enemy? Why these people are moving around? Let us deal with the root cause problem.
I mean, as soon as you get a little bit of money, you move your child to suburbs, right? Even if you're still living in the township. And these kids in the suburbs now are growing up. They wake up at 5 in the morning to try and, and get to school at 8 o'clock. These kids can't speak their mother tongue. They can maybe probably speak, but they can't read or write in their mother tongue. And now they grow up, they go to universities. Do you think these kids, because they are probably the most ones that are going to be like in politics maybe, or they're going to have the fun, are they going to be able to fight the struggle? Because these are our future, our hope. But do you see these kids really being like conscious of the struggle?
Look, the truth of the matter is that these are the very same crises that are created by capital. But one thing that we need to concede to is that despite all these things, You can lie to the people for a very long time, but it can't be permanent. Ultimately, the truth will come out. You look at these schools in affluent areas, where the middle class is dominated, some of the very same schools still harbors the very same issues that we as the villagers, as the township dwellers experience. Pico demonstrates to us to say that even these ones that have close proximity to the racist individuals, in as much as they can drink with them, they can dine with them, they can swim with them and do everything, but they will never be them. At the center of everything, you will always be reminded that you are Black. And that reminder, it is what's going to spark the revolution. Who have thought that Girls High can have a situation where young kids rebelling against the policies of their own school? Where is that consciousness emanating from? If not from the very same analogy that I just gave. We will always be Black, and the system will always remind us that we are Black.
Wow. And what's your take on the recent developments now of the Guptas being arrested? Do you think it's a distraction for what Cyril Ramaphosa is going through? Or do you actually believe that they will be extradited to South Africa? Or it's deliberate?
In politics, there's no coincidence. It's planned. President Ramaphosa is found naked. His corruption is in the eye of public. They need to do a groundwork. And his lapdogs went and canvassed the idea to say that if we bring this at the center of the media, people will focus there. But unfortunately, our people are not stupid. Our people knows the truth. Guptas may be arrested, might be true. We know how reactionary our government it is. If this was the truth, these people would be seeing their pictures. By now, they would be circulating on the media. Where are those pictures? They are nowhere to be found. But let's check the reporting of this Phalaphala saga. They are trying to cover it up. They are trying to act as if like there's no corruption. There is no criminal elements in these things. Human rights were violated. They say nothing about that. We are found in this dilemma, asking difficult questions to say that, why should we believe this Gupta thing? It's an issue of convenience. So what is happening currently in the country, it's sad because of we're in an eve of commemorating the brave generation that fought against the regressive forces of the apartheid and colonization. Then Ramaphosa must step down. But the unfortunate thing is that ANC will always remain the ANC. There is no credible leader that will emerge within the ANC. All of them, they are corrupt, aspiring individuals. So we take this opportunity of June 16 to say that let us raise the consciousness to our people. The ANC will remain the ANC. Let us consolidate the forces on the ground to remove the ANC in government so that we can begin to do the real work of liberating our people. But for as long as we have faith in the ANC, for as long as we continue to vote for ANC, we are going to suffer. The president of the country will be in Jelele. I mean, of the revolutionary forces. When I'm saying of the country, I'm speaking about Kida Julius Malema. Will be giving keynote address in Jelele. There are various activities that are scheduled to take place. We, as the Tshwane residents, will be in Bronkhorstspruit.
Okay.
But most important thing is just we've been swamped by a lot of things that are happening in the country. It is to write and reflect from where we are from to where we are headed. I'm hoping that young people in the country will produce think pieces to give the perspective on the developments of our country, particularly, on the economy of the country, the ongoing coordinated onslaught of the working class by the ruling class, the crime rate, and the corruption level within our country. Those are some of the things that we need to reflect to say that, is the ANC capable of taking us to Canaan? I think we can find an analogy from the Israelites when they were leaving the Egypt to Canaan. Along the route, they had to reflect, including their leader, Moshe or Moses, had to reflect to say that I would not make it to Canaan. Therefore, I must hand the baton to my brother who would take the congregation to the promised land. Perhaps it is the right time we need to think to say that the ANC took us from the apartheid and was still in a journey. But it looks like we are stagnant. We are not making any progress in moving towards our destination. Perhaps we need a new leader in the form of Aaron. And that leader is there. It's no one but the EFF. We need to come together and coordinate the revolutionary forces to see that the continuation of the fragmentation of the revolutionary force in the country, it does not assist us. In fact, it continues to plunge us in the crisis. It continues to ensure that our class enemy thrives. We've been patient with the ANC for a very quite long time. We should begin to treat ANC as the enemy, because of the ANC is our immediate enemy. That is sitting between us and our primary enemy. So if we do not fight the ANC, we will never get access to the white monopoly capital.
With what happened with former president Jacob Zuma, né? I mean, like you said, it was because of Julius who shined the light on what was happening with the Guptas. He was very vocal and very aggressive at times. We saw what happened in Parliament the other day with the members of the AFF being thrown out. I mean, it was the same thing. So, but it's my observation and, me watching. In the end, it did feel like he was feeling sorry for EV former president, going to Nkandla having tea and coming out to say, let's not arrest him. He's an old man. Like, what is that? So people started calling him flip-flopper. You see the way he's so aggressive towards Cyril. Do you think in the end, when Cyril has to go to prison, he'll change his mind?
One thing that we must say, when Julius decided to go, and this was the decision of the CCT, by the way, hence he did not go alone. When Julius decided to go to Nkandla or the CCT, there was a threat of a civil war. And there was a threat of having another bloodbath you know. And knowing Cyril, that he has an appetite of shedding blood.
Marikana.
Yes.
Mm.
The EFF had to stand up and intervene to say that we cannot have another Marikana. We can't allow a situation where innocent people are going to be killed because of the internal factional politics of the ANC.
Mm.
Now, Julius had to go and engage with the former president to say that what are the better ways of handling this? And to paint a bigger picture to say that, President, don't find yourself in a situation where innocent people are killed in your name.
Mm.
You know? So you cannot come and what's the word? Label a Comrade President, Julius Malema, as a field flopper for such an important intervention.
Mm.
Now, the sympathetic approach that was demonstrated by the EFF was to say that don't arrest President Zuma unfairly. Subject him to the fair trial. I think in one interview, President gave an example of saying that if we are in a public space, say for instance, we are in a stadium, I pull a gun and shoot you. The state cannot just convict me and incarcerate me without a fair trial. You know, despite the obviousness of the case and all those things, President Zuma deserved a fair trial. You know, you'd find Amla who still firmly believes that I do not care how old President Zuma is. If a competent court finds him guilty, he must go serve his term. We served our terms when we were found guilty. You know, we still believe that we did not commit any crime. All the charges that were brought before us were fabricated. And unfortunately, because we're fighting against the state, which is in control of all its organs, there was no way we could win. So Ramaphosa was treated as a criminal. He should be declared a delinquent. He should be declared a law unto himself. He's an individual who doesn't deserve any respect. The most unfortunate thing is presiding over the state at a difficult time, you know, where the National Assembly is run through a hybrid model, where other members of the assembly are still home, others are present. And this system, it does hinder accountability, you know, because, you know, the militancy of the EFF, it's diluted. Ramaphosa remain a criminal that should step down from the presidency and face his corruption allegations. That's it.
Thank you so much. And this time you guys are going to see it through. You want to feel sorry for him.
Look, the media can try and cover it up. Everyone can try and defend Ramaphosa. Fact of the matter is that the evidence is in public. But worst of all, they are fighting amongst each other as the ANC.
And those who are in opposition, they can be as dirty as they want. Hence, more. I believe President when he says there's more that is going to come. There will be more that is coming out that will implicate the sitting president. When sitting president, he said he's prepared to die on a sword, defending the corruption. Media covered that story up. They did not even give it a necessary attention that it deserved, despite all the clips that were out, despite everything that was out. Now, they must take us into confidence to cover this story. We want to see how creative they can be in covering the story. I bet to believe there is no individual who can spin Dr. this. Even Mark Maharaj, who used to be a good communicator and specialized in spin doctoring, he cannot do that. This time around, the president is exposed. It's either we will accept that we are led by a thug, or we will fight and defend the constitution of the state. I mean, if the president is innocent, why did he suspend the public protector? The court had just ruled that the president should retract the intention to suspend a letter to public protector. But instead, president acted contrary and suspended the public protector. This tells you that the president has a lot to hide. We have a confidence that the sanity will prevail in the DPP. She will do everything right. But even if she chooses to protect the president, the reality of the matter is that people of South Africa knows what happened.
Just to plant the seed. The seed is there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing is that we will have to just recycle the useless leaders of the ANC. I mean, I would be happy if the stepping down of Cyril would give a leader outside the ANC an opportunity to lead the state. But given that we're still going to be led by the ANC, the material condition of our people will never change. You know, we will still be led by the neoliberal ANC, which agitate and gravitate towards neoliberal policy framework.
What do you think maybe is going to happen in the next elections? You will see like a drop in numbers in people voting the ANC.
It is evident that the ANC will never get 50%.
Yeah.
It does not need science. It is there. People said to us that the EFF will never grow. The EFF is failing. As we are speaking, the EFF is winning by elections. EFF is doing well. You know, this membership drive is being received positively. What does that tell us? The EFF has studied some of the wrong things that it committed. Why we're not translating our sympathizers into voters. And we discovered that amongst that is because of these people are not our members. But most importantly, we have never driven a campaign where EFF branches ensures that all its members, the branch members, are registered voters. We are correcting that.
Okay.
Let them bring 2024. We are ready.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'll let you go.
Thank you once more. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you for having this chat with me. We'll talk.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.